Weather gets warmer, Australia's mosquitoes, they're out for blood. But have you ever wondered why you, I know I have, or maybe someone you know, is the ultimate Mozzie magnet? To find out why and how to keep the little buggers away, we have found ourselves the ultimate expert. Immunologist Dr. Catriona Nguyen-Robertson joins us now from Melbourne studio. Good morning, Kat. Great to speak to you. What is the #1 thing about a human that makes these mosquitoes lick their lips? Or do they have lips?
Well, first off, I just want to say that mozzies suck. I mean, quite literally. They don't have lips, but they do have a mouth that they use to pierce through your skin and suck up your blood. And it's kind of like a pointy straw that you use to get through the bubble tea cup. And what draws them in the first place are things that you're making that you can't even smell, like carbon dioxide, a gas that we're breathing out, as well as lactic acid that we make when we work out. And we can't smell these things, but the mozzies can, and that sure does lure them in. Plus, our skin's covered in healthy bacteria that live on us, and they're constantly making chemicals. And it just so happens that some bacteria on certain people make chemicals that are quite enticing to bacteria.
Wow. Is that a nice way of saying we stink? Maybe.
Do they prefer men, women or children?
Well, a study from the bug bite thing revealed that 82% of Aussies don't think that mozzies have a sort of gender preference, but they do. They do tend to bite men more than women, and the study that looked into this figured out that it was because, on average, their body size tends to be a little bit larger. So there's just more skin for the mozzies to actually attack, plus they're breathing out a bit more carbon dioxide and have a bit more heat as well to give off that scent that we can't even smell.
Oh, wow. I've heard that they like to target pregnant women as well. What, is that true? Is that 2 for 1?
Absolutely. A study showed that pregnant women attract twice as many mosquitoes as non-pregnant women. And again, that's because they're breathing out more carbon dioxide. And so perhaps this preference of men versus women, pregnant women versus non-pregnant women, it's not so much a preference of who's tastier, but just who the mozzies can find a bit more easily.
What about blood type or vitamin levels? Do they have anything to do with it?
Well, there are certainly a lot of tales and people have found that when they use vitamin B, perhaps it fends off the mozzies a little bit more, but that's all sort of personal stories. There isn't too much science behind other blood type or vitamin levels.
Right, so that includes food then as well. There's no foods you can avoid if you don't want to get bitten?
I mean, that would be great.
Yeah.
Because I seem to be a mozzie magnet and I would love to eat certain foods and keep them away. But again, yeah, not too much science behind that. But I will point out that mozzies tend to have a bit of a taste for beer. There was a study that got people to either drink a litre of beer or a litre of water, and the mozzies were more attracted to the people who had beer. So they don't know why, but if you are out with your mates having a beer, you might want to take a few extra precautions against the mozzies.
Oh, we're getting somewhere now.
I think we've solved the mystery, Tristan. What about clothing? Obviously, yeah, covering up works.
Yeah, well, just from personal experience, check your clothes for holes because the mozzies can bite through that. But in all seriousness, you do also want to avoid tighter fitting clothes because it's easier for the mosquito mouth to pierce through both your clothes and the skin in one hit. Yeah. But you also want to avoid darker colours and red coloured clothes because everyone, no matter what your skin colour is, everyone looks red to a mosquito. And so if you're wearing red clothes, you look like an extra tasty beacon with much more skin to attack.
Oh, well. So if you're a bit too slow and you get bitten, what can you do kind of to stop the itch without giving one of those on?
Yeah. Well, the reason that we get an itch in the first place is that when the mosquitoes bite you, they inject their saliva into your blood, and that shouldn't be there. So your immune system is trying to fight off that mosquito saliva, and you get red, itchy, and swollen. So to stop that, you need to kind of stop the immune system. You need to break up that fight. And one great way of doing that is using this thing called the bug bite thing, which uses suction. You use suction on the spot. And it's a great way to get a little bit of relief and stop that itch in its tracks. Plus, it's very small and nifty and quite handy. And for someone like me who has sensitive skin, it's nice to not have to use an extra chemical or ointment to stop that itch.
Little gadget thing. On a more serious note, what about illnesses? We had cases of encephalitis earlier in the year. You hear about Ross River fever. What are the chances of actually getting sick from a mozzie bite?
Well, that's actually quite a big question because it does depend on where in the world you are, as well as even where in Australia you are. But thankfully in Australia, the rates are a little bit low in terms of all the different diseases that mosquitoes can spread. So while it is a concern, there is a chance. The chances are quite low, but I would recommend checking out the health warnings in your local area because especially if you're around water, you might be more likely to get Ross River virus, but still the chances aren't too high, which is good.
All right, to finish up, what are the top 3 things we can do to avoid getting eaten this summer?
Yeah, well, firstly, build a physical barrier between yourself and the mosquitoes, whether it's a net or a screen or even a chemical barrier like a repellent to sort of confuse their scent. Secondly, you want to get rid of stagnant water, water that's just lying around because that's where mosquitoes love to breed and you don't want a perfect breeding ground around you. And lastly, if you do happen to get bitten and you want to get a little bit of relief, or because I love puns, a little bite of relief, you can use the bug bite thing.
All righty. Well, Dr. Catriona, thank you. That has been very informative.
Thank you.